All right, Andrew, I hope you're doing well. And I'm taking a look now at your major project from week 7 and giving you some feedback on it. So let's get right into it. All right. You wrote yours in, let me get rid of that thing there. You wrote yours in APA. So it looks like you've done a great job with the main page, your title page here. So that's very good. You got a nice, interesting title there. And then you have the subtitle here in bold again. So great job. Just what it should look like. So let's see how you did with the introduction here. What happens when a job once considered the most secure and desirable suddenly becomes uncertain overnight? As technology advances and companies chase efficiency, many workers are discovering that workplace culture can change just as quickly as their job titles. The rapid advancement of technology has reshaped the modern workplace, creating new. Okay, so good job with your hook, getting your introduction out there and getting your audience to trying to draw them in. So you did a good job with that. Haven't really seen your specific audience choice yet, but maybe it will be here later. All right, so here you introduce the article and the title. By the title and author. Now remember that you should have the article in quotation marks. Article title should be in quotation marks. And then you say that Nadia Rawson discusses how the technology industry's once worker friendly, that should probably be hyphenated, worker hyphen friendly culture is fading. So um, that's still not quite the historical or cultural reference yet, though, because it's just worker friendly. It's not about a specific audience. So I'm still looking for audience, specific audience. She explains with the quote, "The layoffs are part of the new age of bosses," and blah blah blah. So you incorporate a quote here, which is good. It's not no problem at all, but you don't have the parenthetical at the end here to show where it ends. So remember, you always got to have a parenthetic set of parentheses here to show where your information ends. And since you just mentioned her name here, and then in the very next sentence you quote her, this probably wouldn't have even had to say Rollison. It could have just been a set of parentheses with a page number in it, and that would have been like P period space and then page number, and in quotation marks, and then you would put the comma after the parenthetical if it was in there. Um, Okay, you probably should have changed just because of the flow of the wording here. This probably should have been which explains instead of this explains. Okay. Rawson argues that this shift represents a long-term change in how tech companies operate rather than a temporary response to economic challenge. All right, so we got the topic in there. Tech, tech things, tech industry, tech taking over, having to deal with layoffs and all that good stuff. So, well, not so good stuff. Genre is covered by the verbs you use here. She discusses, she explains, tells me you think it's informational. Here you say she argues, so I'd say you probably would think you'd probably agree that it's a little bit informational and persuasive. So that's good. That'll work. Your purpose is there good, but your audience is a bit wanting because I don't know who your specific audience is yet. And that's something that should have been clarified right here in your introduction. Historical and cultural context. You've got the historical. Um, it's not clear here that well, you say modern workplace, so that helps with the historical. But without the clear audience, I can't be sure who the cultural context is, so I have to take a little bit off of that. Your core idea is good overall, except you do not have a potential negative about the article mentioned there. So I got to take a little bit. That's where I'm taking that off from, is the core idea, because the core idea is what she's done well, but it should also include something, at least some, even if it's a minor thing that she didn't do so well in her article, and that it would be part of the core idea. So that's where I'm taking that off for. All right, now we're on to the body paragraphs for the details and evidence. In the era of happy work, tech workers over Ralston. Now, once you introduce her by her name, uh, full name, you only have to use that. You can just use her last name after that. Once you've used her full name in the introduction, you can just say Rawlson. You also don't really have to say the full title all the time either. You can just say the article, in this article, or in her article, comma, Rawlson effectually analyzes. So that's just something to consider. It's not anything that I'm going to take anything off for. It's just something to learn from, right? So you talk about how she analyzes this. Employee centers should be hyphenated. Here you mentioned major tech companies, but even that's still a very large audience. Okay. You talk about what she does and says, but you don't provide any actual quotes. And that's what we're looking for, is quotes or paraphrases pulled from the article to help back up the things you're saying. So you got details, but your evidence really isn't backed up with any quotes. So that's going to take a little bit of a hit there. Here's what, this is what I was talking about. Rawlson's article functions. So there you go. As a piece of persuasive workplace commentary written for a broad but professionally aware audience. Because it appears in a major news publication, it blends journalistic reporting with opinion-driven analysis. So here it appears you've started actually trying to address the rubric elements a little bit too on the nose. So that's something that you really didn't want to do, but it's not too big a deal because I was able to glean those things from the introduction. Business leaders, employees, public. The audience for the article includes technology workers, corporate. Okay, so this is the audience for the article, but I still don't have. There's still no clarity about your audience, who you chose to write this paper to, and so that all goes back to what I've already marked in the introduction. And so basically, you're making a lot of points here, but they're all just simply driven by your desire to answer the different elements of the rubric, which really isn't the way it should be. It should be an essay that happens to mention those things. It shouldn't be an essay that's basically just a list of the answers to the rubric in paragraph form, and that's kind of what this is coming across as. So the details, that's going to change the details a little bit because they're going to suffer a little bit from that. Again, the evidence is not there because you don't really have anything quoted or paraphrased or anything from the article itself. All right, so and that's about it. Then this is your conclusion. Your conclusion, if this is the conclusion, it's way too long. Conclusion should be like 5 sentences. So it also it looks to me like you may not have used the exemplar also. So that's a big reason for why I'm seeing what I'm seeing too, I think. All right, let's move on to your new audience, see what you did with that one. For part 2, my audience shifts to investors and shareholders who closely follow the direction and financial stability of technology companies. Unlike employees who generally blah, 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 because of the shift of focus. All right, so that is good. You've done a good job of introducing the second audience. Now let's see how you did with this. Investors need to understand. Oh, is this still part of the? This might still be part of the new audience discussion. The audience needs. Okay, in there, having used it. So, is this your hook, or should this be part of the introduction, or is this part of the new audience needs thing? I'm not sure. That's unclear for me right there. I'm just going to assume that this is where the article starts here, so that's where I'm going to go from. In the era of for investors, this transformation can be viewed as a recalibration rather than a collapse. Rawlson describes it as part of the new age boss system. Okay, so again, you're providing quotes. You're providing some quotes in here, or at least it's a partial quote, but there's no parenthetical here, just like I mentioned in your introduction of part one. Okay. All right, so basically, this part should have looked a lot like like part one, except where the wording changed to fit with your different audience. But it seems to me like you almost rewrote, like wrote a whole new thing here that's not really quite driven by the same uh, concepts, and again, does not seem to be driven by the exemplar. Um, you do have a quote here, so that's good, but you don't have a parenthetical at the end still. Okay. This wasn't something you really needed, but that's okay. Um, yeah, so this was just a way too broad. Employee-centered culture basically just means everybody in everybody in the planet that works would be considered employees. So that's a way too broad audience. Um, all right, let's see what your references page looks like. So your references page appears to be fully centered when it's not supposed to be centered. It should be left margin justified with hanging indent. So that's a little bit of an issue. Here you have a couple quotes, but you didn't need those down here. You needed those actually in the paper. I seem to remember seeing this before, so it may have been your paper that I saw this in. Maybe perhaps you didn't get a chance to watch my video where I reviewed all this stuff and pointed these things out in that week 5 in week 6 when I got it back to you, which is unfortunate because I think that would have helped you realize a lot of these things needed to be fixed. So your writing situation here is not quite what it should be. Writing style, actually, writing situation needs to take more off there. Writing conventions, communication could be, well, your communication's okay, I think. Your citations are very poor because you don't really cite anything until toward the end, but I'll give you a little bit of credit on that. So that gives you an 80. So you still got a B. It's a low B, but you still got a B, so that's good. All right, so good job, Andrew, and hopefully this will, even in spite of this, you'll end up maybe with an A or maybe a low A or a high B or something, so that's good. If you have questions or anything that you would like to ask, feel free to let me know.